Hello, my friends, and welcome back to 1111 Outdoors. Here recently, I did a video. A subscriber asked me to do a video on this knife, and this is the W Mini by Odenwolf. It is a nice little knife. I really enjoyed reviewing it. I have even worked with it a little bit since then, and I just continue to like this knife. I love the blade profile. It's just very user friendly. There's so much you can do with this edge. But they asked me to compare it to the eldris, and I felt like there's really no comparison with this knife to the eldris. The eldris has the Morakniv eldris, I should say, has this edge, and the W Mini by Odenwolf, has this edge. So it's like, this is not apples to apples. This is apples and oranges, or it may not even be a fruit simulation there. I mean, I don't understand why they wanted to see these two together. But I did review them and I used them, and I can say I don't think that this is an accurate competitive situation here because they are so different. They have different utilities. Like, I really enjoy the Scandi here, but I do a lot of woodwork, and Scandi is my choice for doing a lot of woodwork. Now, if I'm doing a lot of slicing, or if I'm doing some shallow cuts, I really enjoy this hollow grind. It works very well. But the eldris also has this compound bevel up here that it's advantageous in a lot of different areas. Like if you're wanting to carve into different depths of wood, this gives you more. I think it gives me more versatility to do that. And that's a very niche thing, but it does come in handy, and I do understand why they did this. Super handy. I love both these knives. I really do. I'm going to keep both of them. They're going to be in the collection. I really do enjoy both of these knives. Do I think one is better than the other? I really don't, because they are very, very different. They're totally different knives. It's like asking me to compare two completely different blade profiles. I mean, you can't compare a full fine to a Scandi, or a hollow to, you know, a Scandi. It doesn't work. They're not the same thing. There's just not enough comparative balance there to justify pitting them against each other. That being said, I looked into the Odenwolf line, and I did find a couple of competitors that do look like they should be in the same weight class. And this is the Morakniv Light Duty, which has this full Scandi edge. And this is a great little knife. If you don't have this one, you might look into getting it, because it is very different than the original eldris. The eldris with that double grind is very different than this one. This gives you a Scandi throughout, so past the parallel part of the blade into the belly, you have a lot of useful real estate there. And in a small platform, you can really get in there and do some fine work with this, because you control that edge. Whereas if you were, say, working with a larger Mora, you have the entire blade here, and if you wanted to get to the edge, you had to really get out here. And you've got a lot of leverage here that is beneficial sometimes, but most of the time you just really want to focus right here where you're working. And this knife does excel in a lot of areas. This is a Mora Garberg, and I've carried this for years. And it does excel in a lot of things. And there is times when this blade length does give you some advantage. But there's a lot of times when you really just want to work in a precision mode, and being this far away from the actual working edge is not quite as advantageous as I would like it to be. And so when I first saw the eldris, I saw that as the solution to that, especially this light duty, because it basically gets me all the way to the end of my Garberg, so I can really focus on the tip of the Garberg, if you understand what I'm saying. Say this was the very end of my Garberg. Well, now I'm all the way up there. I don't have that extra blade length that I'm having to work out here. I'm all the way to the performance package here. And that's helpful. That really does help you get in there and do some work. And one thing about this model compared to the original eldris has a 90-degree spine for striking a ferro rod. The light duty does not. And I bought a couple of these, and here's why. I went ahead and took one and did a full 90 on it. Because there's sometimes when I want to use a knife in a bushcraft setting where I'm going to be using just the light duty knife, and I do want to strike my fire steel with this. So I did that. But I kept one with the contoured edge. And the reason being is because it's just more forgiving with my thumb. If you get out there and work with it a lot, this is much more forgiving than that 90-degree edge. So keeping that contour on one of your blades can be helpful. If you're somebody who does a lot of blade work like I do a ton of knife reviews. I walk these things through a gambit of challenges just to see how well it works. And, just in my daily or my, just in the daily work on, one of my weekend adventures, I process a ton of wood just because I want to challenge the blade. I want to challenge myself, hone my skill set, see which blades I think work better for me for the type of bushcraft that I do, type of camping that I do. And this light duty eldris has really played a strong role in that. Back to the point of the video, the existence of this knife is important because reviewers wanted to see this knife. This is the Odenwolf. This is the Odenwolf Mini 2. And if you notice, it's full Scandi as well. And it does have a 90-degree edge. So I have a completely different handle profile here, but I have a very, very similar blade set. So we can absolutely compare these two knives. And you'll notice there's not much difference in these. This is more a knife, and they have their standard Sandvik stainless, which is legendary, and I have used so many years, and it has never let me down. Stainless Moras are amazing. This is Odenwolf D2. And so far, I've really enjoyed it. It has worked very well. It has stayed super sharp. I think I've said this in a few of my other videos, but D2, if done properly, can be a pretty amazing steel. And they really did this D2 properly. I mean, you use it and see how well the edge retention works and see how well it performs, and you'll see what I'm saying. Odenwolf does an outstanding heat treatment on this D2. I think it has an HRC of like 60. That's pretty outstanding. And as far as being brittle, I mean, look at the size or the width of this knife. It is extremely thick and extremely short. I don't know what type of lunacy you would have to be engaging in to break this knife. You would almost have to be trying to break this knife to make that happen. There's edge all the way to the tip. This thing can take some serious, serious leverage and some serious, serious pressure. It's not going to give up on you. I guarantee it. I've used it in the field, and I can tell you, it's tough, very tough. You can see the Odenwolf is even thicker than the Mora. So when I look at these two knives, I see apples to apples. I see oranges to oranges. These are very, very similar. We can have a discussion about these knives. But here's the thing. Here's what I found out through all the testing that I did. Edge retention, very, very similar. I think they both started to dull at about the same time. And I was putting them through the exact same pressures, the exact same woods, pushing through the exact same type of wood, and performing the exact same type of notches, the exact same time of carving tent stakes and all the things you do with these little knives. They both got dull at about the same time. And when I say dull, that's an exaggeration. These things were still pretty sharp, but I mean, I was getting to the point where I didn't really see that they were showing signs of wear. I took them to work, and I have access to some serious microscopes there, and I didn't see any edge damage, any rolls, anything like that. So I was going to take them back to the house and load them up and sharpen them up, but all I did was strop them. I just threw them on the strop and whipped them back and forth a few times, and these things went right back into shape. I mean, but you are talking about an enormous amount of steel. It goes down to a true Scandi. There's no secondary bevel here, and that that really holds an edge for a long time. That's why I use a Scandi to process wood, because these really hold an edge for a long time. So as far as the blade goes, these guys are pretty neck and neck as far as performance goes. And I'm, a big fan of Mora. And I thought, well, they're definitely going to outperform, the Odenwolf. But both these knives are right there at $25. So they're in the same ballpark. They're playing the same sport here. These are very different steels, but very competitively performing steels. And if you get both of them and look, you'll see what I'm saying. They are very, very neck and neck as far as performance goes. There are a few places where they do deviate as far as aesthetics and geometry. Mora is famous for this termination right here at the handle. You can see how the blade just digs right into the handle. It's just, there's no sharpening choil. There's no difference between this part of the blade and this part of the blade. It goes right into the handle. So you can work material all the way to the handle. And I've let it land right on that handle and just go to town. Now, I don't know if that matters to you, but there is a difference with the Odenwolf. The Odenwolf does have the sharpening choil, and it does have that edge break right there. Now, you really can't get too much material down in there, but I think that some people might find that difference to be substantial. For me, not really that much. I mean, I think I prefer the Mora, but the thing about the Odenwolf that I told you before with the other video is that they have a lot of character. And Moras tend to be they're handsome, don't get me wrong. Good looking knives for sure. But there's not a lot of geometry here. I mean, you have this barreled handle, which is omnidirectional. You can roll it around. There's a slight difference on this side than this side as far as this radius right here, but it's not great. I mean, you really, if you close your eyes and move it around, you can find it. You know which one is which, but it's very subtle. So the handle is very symmetrical, and when you use it, you'll notice that, which is advantageous in certain ways. Say you're doing some cuts this way. Say you want to do some chest pulls, so you turn it around the other way. There's a lot of different ways to hold this knife, and they all seem to be consistently agreeable based on this geometry. That's nice. And I've come to really appreciate that. But it is very, very normal, kind of. I wouldn't say boring, but it's very, there's not a lot of character there. Whereas the Odenwolf has this handle that is very, I don't know, almost tactical looking, because you have this radius here that's exaggerated into the handle. And it is symmetrical from this part down. Like if it wasn't for the logo, you wouldn't know if I'm blade up or blade down right now. But from here forward, it's very different. And you do have this ramp here. And I do enjoy this area here. When you're using it, it's nice. You feel it. There's an advantage there, I think, in some cases. I mean, really it depends on your grip preference and where you're putting pressure. Like, different people's hands are completely different. The way that they hold their knife is a little bit different, and that changes where the hot spots develop for you after extended use. I've seen some people put their thumb here. I've seen people put their thumb here. I've seen people not even use their thumb at all. I mean, we don't all hold our knives exactly the same way. There's a little bit of individuality in the way we use our blades. You wouldn't think there would be that much, but after teaching many people bushcraft skills and watching how their individual evolution goes, because I try to teach them or tell them, what we're doing, not exactly how to do it, because I like to watch them perform the task, because I'm learning too. There's any instructor that'll tell you that they know everything, it's probably not the person you really need to be listening to. You learn something with everyone that you train. I mean, so every single person has something to teach you. And if you're not picking up on that, then you're missing out. And it's not not always positive. Sometimes they teach you some things you're like, yeah, okay, that's why we do it this way. But every once in a while, somebody will do something and you can say, there is an advantage to that. Or I can see how you holding the blade like that because you find it more comfortable or more uh, natural ergonomically. I can see how that's an advantage for you. So, like I said, whenever you train somebody to do something, tell them what is expected, and then watch how they figure it out, because you may learn something as well. And I've learned so much from the people that have gone through the courses that I offer. This knife is outstanding. I love it. I love the way that it's a little bit different than the Mora. Do I consider them the same knife? Blade wise, yeah. Handle wise, ergonomics, no. They're very, very different. But they're different in good ways. Like there's sometimes I prefer to hold this knife if I'm doing something very specific. And likewise with this one, if I'm going to be switching up my grip from uh, you know a pull to a push to a whatever I'm doing that's very articulate and I need that consistent geometry, then this knife is very, very predictable. You're not going to have any surprises or, you know, adjustments you're going to have to make whenever you're moving this around and rotating it into your hand for basic different grips. This one is very predictable, and predictability is a good font for safety. If you're very familiar with your tool, then you feel very comfortable, and you don't get too comfortable. You don't put yourself in harm's way being comfortable, but there's a comfort there that you come to rely on. And it's kind of intuitive the way that you hold the blade after a certain amount of time with this much predictability in the geometry. But this knife is fun whenever you're just doing simple tasks, or it's very comfortable to hold like this. I kind of like that um, very inviting area right here. I don't know if it's an advantage so much to speak. It may be for some more than others, but for me, it's just, I don't know, I just like the feel of it. And sometimes that's enough to make a difference. I also like the heavier blade stock because it kind of works to your advantage as well. If you're wedging off, larger pieces of material, the heavier blade stock, and I know it doesn't seem like it would be that noticeable, but if you process as a lot of wood, you'll see it. You'll see whenever that wedge there is pushing up a little bit more material or giving you a little bit more free space than, say, a thinner blade goes. So, if I had to compare these two, I would say they are both top notch performers. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these knives. I think they're both fantastic. I mean, they perform so well. The main difference for me is that the Mora knife comes with a contoured spine. There's no 90-degree spine there. So, and that's a quick fix. If that's a deal breaker for you, don't let it be. Go ahead and get you one. I got me a second one, and I threw a 90-degree spine on it, and it's fantastic. But I carry. People say I have a problem because I'll probably carry 10 knives with me when I go out, and there'll usually be two or three that I'm focused on as far as doing a review or trying to answer questions for people. But there are some that I just really enjoy using. And carrying one knife is, um, for some people, it's where it's at. But for me, I really I love knives as a entire world of tools. Each individual knife has a little bit of character that I really enjoy experimenting with. So, I'm just absolutely in love with knives. I love knives, have since I was a little kid. So, and I'm 52 now, so that's that's a lot of years of using different knives. So, if you were curious about these two, or you're on the fence on which one you should buy, at a $25 price point, you can get both of these and put them in your kit for $50. That's outstanding. I mean, I don't know how you're going to beat that. And I think here's another question I had. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He sees these knives as um, not as useful because they're not big knives. There's a lot of guys out there that have this big knife complex. They think that you need a large blade to get anything done. And in some situations, a large blade isn't advantageous. And I said this in my previous video, and I still stand behind the opinion that a lot of times when we're using our knives, we're using the the very the very end of it. I mean, say I'm processing or doing something. There's a lot of times, sometimes I want to go out here, but then I'm not using this. So I'm just I have all of this to negotiate while I'm trying to focus here. That has an advantage here. And let's say I'm down here and trying to focus right here. Oh, I have all of this that can get in the way of whatever I'm doing. Another advantage here. So if you don't see the advantage to a small knife, then I can't talk you into it, then that's fine. I mean, that's your technique, that's your process, that's your evolution as far as using a blade. But if you are open minded to using a smaller blade and you do see the practicality in focusing on different parts of a large blade and utilizing that same mentality but with a more focused accent, then a small blade's where it's at. Like I said, for $50, you can pick up both these knives and you can try them out for yourself. And we're getting to the holiday season, so if you're watching this around this time, this is November 2024. So actually, it's December 2024. Just kicked over. So you're getting up on the holidays. You can pick up both these knives, give them a shot, and if you don't like it, hey, gift it to someone else. I gift a ton of knives. I give away more knives than I own, and I own a ton of knives. In fact, with this channel, I'd like to do some giveaways. So if we can get our numbers up, and I can really focus on doing this channel for the amount of time in the day that I want to focus on it, then I'm gonna do some massive giveaways. And you guys are you're really gonna reap the rewards from that. So I love my subscribers. I want to thank every one of you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed and you enjoy this content, please subscribe. It makes a difference on whether I can make videos or not. It is that important. And honestly, it is the nicest thing you can do for me. It doesn't cost you a dime. All it costs you is your time. And I thank you for that time. I know your time's valuable. I appreciate you spending it with me. This is 1111 Outdoors. We'll talk to you soon.